In this video, we're going to unpack heartache and a broken heart, what that actually means or what it doesn't mean, and how that affects us, how that shapes our lives. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi and welcome to Oak Law Door. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Claratio. For those that are returning subscribers, thank you, thank you, thank you. And heartache, heartbreak. And it's one of those interesting things because we all say, "You broke my heart." It's very interesting because nobody breaks our heart. It's just that we feel pain from a given situation. The heart never really kind of breaks. It can get a bit battered and bruised depending on who we give our energies to, who we share our lives with, who we invest in, especially if we're not using that discernment. But it doesn't break. And it's interesting because this video is inspired by a reader who quite frankly irritated me. And when I feel emotions like that, I have to kind of take stock of myself because it's a trigger within me. When I'm feeling those lower vibrating emotions, it's not that person, that's just a projection that I'm feeling. It's like, I was irritated with you saying that. It's not. It's okay, why was I irritated? What's going on there in me? Because we all have differing perspectives and we all have differing beliefs and values. And it's very easy to project. It's much more challenging to be self-reflective. What's going on in me? What's happening there? Why did what that person say irritate me? And understanding ourselves in a much better way, a much deeper way. We're meeting ourselves in a much greater way. And it was interesting. I think the thing that irritated me is it reminded me of my old self. When I sat and reflected on it, it reminded me of my old self, that woe me, sitting in those energies. And it was the frustration of, has humanity not learned yet? That is so unfair of me, just because that's a lesson that I've gone through the cycle and I've stepped onto a new cycle. And that makes it sound really easy. It wasn't an easy journey at all because I had to go through that cycle several times before I actually learned the lesson. And there was a little bit of that irritation that was sat in that as well. The fact that I didn't get it the first time round. And then it was like, there's obviously still a little piece that needs a bit of self-forgiveness. This is the wonderful thing when we are self-reflective, when we are being mindful and conscious to meet ourselves where we are at and to have a level of truth, authenticity, that deep honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it can even hurt. But when we start to do that, that's when we grow. That's when we really grow, is looking at ourselves, looking at those aspects rather than projecting, because it would have been also easy. Nobody broke my heart. But it was like, you're irritating me. So why is that irritating me? And it was because in the past, that is how I felt. And I needed to forgive myself for feeling like that then, for sitting much longer than was healthy for me in the energies of woe me, and for me to have been projecting that pain out and blaming others. My circumstances were that my battered and bruised heart did come from very negative, very uncalled for circumstances, but that was obviously the only way I personally was going to learn that lesson. So that doesn't mean I deserved the treatment that I got. That doesn't mean that it condones the treatment that was given. It doesn't. But it is accepting that in my individual circumstance, that was my best route of learning and evolving. And even that is like, I'm sat here thinking, and I'm kind of doing that. You see me kind of look down then. And even that's hard. You know, even that kind of pinches a little bit, in which case, you know, I need to sit and release that as well and apply forgiveness for that. Every experience that comes onto our radar is a learning experience. And when we can start to take that on board, when we start to take ownership of the things that occurred in our life, that's when we start to free ourselves from any shackles, from any manipulation, from any lower vibrating energies that are holding us back, whether that's internal or external. Because we see it for what it is. We begin to understand it. We begin to really take on board that actually this is a cycle of learning, and albeit a very hard cycle, what positivity can I take from this? It's that turning that negative into positive and creating a powerful surgence of energy in which to uplift ourselves. It takes me to that phrase and the song, the first cut is the deepest, and it is. The first cut is always the deepest, but it's not going to be the last cut. And it's that learning. I was brought up in an environment where we were taught to avoid pain, and we can see this in society. It's very nanny a society, and of course we don't want to see people in pain, of course we don't want to see people hurt, but in the same vein, let's be honest, most of us only really take on board the lesson and make the changes necessary when we have been hurt. Let's take poor driving for an example, messing about on the roads. How many of us didn't do that when we were young? Driving too fast, or not paying proper attention, or, you know, doing stupid tricks. I can remember kind of changing drivers without stopping on the motorway, towing a boat, for goodness sake. I mean, it was ridiculous. We were young, we were experimenting and almost playing games with life. And thankfully, nothing happened on those instances. But we grew and we learned and we understand how dangerous that is. Now, there will be other people that play those same games and they do have an accident, and that is part of their learning. And they change. That's what I'm saying about the pain. They change. They learn from that devastating experience, and they make the changes that are necessary to give them the safety within that given situation. And that's all that's happening. And so do we want to put ourselves in dangerous positions? Absolutely not. We shouldn't be doing that. But do we want to wrap ourselves up so tightly in cotton wool that we don't live life? Because life has its yin and yang. There's heaven and hell. There is light and darkness. And we need to balance all of those aspects. How many times have you heard or even said yourself that we really can't truly appreciate the joyous moments if we haven't had shitty ones? Our hearts don't get broken. They may feel broken. They certainly feel bruised and battered when we've gone through a hideous experience. But that pain shouldn't be what defines us. It should be what we do with the pain that defines us, how we transform that pain into something powerfully positive that defines us. It's called alchemy, and it's alchemy of our own emotions, our own thoughts, those feelings. Do we sit in those negative feelings? Do we sit there and continue with the woe me? He did this, she did that, blah, blah, blah. Or are we going to take back our power and say, I made a mistake with that person. I made a mistake with that person. Okay, what was that mistake? What was my participation within that? Because we co-create. It's not just one. We're constantly co-creating. And so we have to take responsibility and accountability for the part we played. We can't and shouldn't exert our beliefs, our values and what is right for us onto another, making them change. It's their fault. Projection, projection, projection. You did. But we should be reviewing ourselves, checking in with ourselves. What was my participation in that? Why was that dysfunctional? What was my part that I played in that dysfunction? And not beating yourself up over it, but okay, what can I do differently next time? How can I learn from this? How can I elevate? How can I transform this into something positive? Use it as fuel for your ascension, for your growth, like a fertiliser. Just remember, fertiliser is shite. And yet beauty grows from that. Food for thought. If you've liked the video, hit that like button. If you've not yet subscribed, then please subscribe. Until next time, beautiful souls, blessings to you all.